Okay, so at the end of the last video, we were cropping it, and we are trying to get it so that we can affect just the pixels here and not have to worry about all those pixels that were outside of the frame, using this cropping tool. So that when we hit Control T to transform it, we don't have all this stuff, right? We want to really control those pixels. So a good way to do that is to actually use the selection box, which we haven't used yet. I got to get off of this crop tool, otherwise it does bad things. So underneath the move tool is what's called the marquee tool. This is a rectangular marquee. This is, instead of drawing your shape with your lasso, you can make a shaped selection. An ellipse, a rectangle, that kind of thing. So I'm going to use the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to select around my image. Because right now this merged image has all this other stuff floating off of my canvas. Once I've selected it, I want to copy it and paste it into a new layer. So if I try my usual copy and paste, like edit, copy, and then edit, paste, look what happens. I have to allow Photopea to go to the clipboard, which I did. So I copied and pasted it. It made a duplicate layer for me. But that's a few too many steps, right? Like copy and then paste. If I make a selection with the marquee tool, I just want to be able to duplicate that immediately. And a good way to do that, you'll find under Layer, and it's called Duplicate. And the shortcut for it is Command J. So we're going to do a lot of Command J because it's non-destructive. And when I do it, watch what happens to my layers. Command J. It does exactly what copying and pasting does of a selection. It made a new copy layer right on top. But it made a copy only of my selection. So now when I do Control T and warp, no longer is it trying to affect all the stuff that's outside of my canvas. It's only the stuff in my canvas. So I can kind of push and pull it, make it the shape I want, have some fun with it, maybe round it out a little bit so it's not so rectangular. It could be. For me right now, this is just to manipulate these black shapes. So it's a composition I like and have full control over each pixel. Then to affect that transformation, I hit return. And now I'm reminded that there are white pixels in this still, and gray pixels, as well as black pixels. I can't really tell that when I turn on my white background, but when I turn it off, I can see where that grid is showing through, right? So how do I get rid of all the white pixels? And maybe even some of the light gray ones. We're going to use the next selection tool. So we've talked about the marquee, we've talked about the lasso a lot. Now we're going to go to the magic wand, and it's the tool underneath the lasso. All of these, if you hold them down, they have other tools within the drawer, but we're just going to use the top tool, which is the magic wand. I can hit Command 0 to fit it all on screen. Magic wand's properties. It can select anything that matches where you click, right? So if I click on a white pixel with the magic wand, it will select that pixel, but it will also select, with these settings, any pixel within a third close to that pixel. So that's what a 32 tolerance is. A 0 tolerance means the pixel would have to match exactly with the one I clicked in order to be selected. And with contiguous checked, it means that that pixel has to be touching where I click. What I want to do in this case is select all the white pixels everywhere in that layer, whether they are touching where I click or not. So I'm going to uncheck contiguous. And then when I click, I'll show you the difference. If I check contiguous and click on the white space, this is what the selection looks like. Where I clicked, it selected all the white that's touching where I clicked. But if I uncheck contiguous and click on the white, then this is what it selects. all the white shapes everywhere. And that's what I want. Then I'm in the layer that I want to affect. I'll turn off the background so you can see it more dramatically. And then I just hit delete. And it will get rid of all the white pixels everywhere. And not just the white pixels, but everything within a third close to the white pixels, which in this case includes this kind of gray stuff here. Now, I also have anti-alias checked. And you want to keep anti-alias checked. Because remember, we are in a raster format. And so when we're doing curves, you can't create a perfect curve with square pixels. So anti-aliasing is this effect, where it softens at the edge of really strongly contrasted pixels so that it feels more naturally like a curve. And we want to keep that in this instance. And in most instances. Okay, so now that that's deleted, if I zoom in, I can hit Command D to deselect, or I can just click on my lasso and click somewhere. Now if I zoom in, I'll see that there's still little bits of dark gray in there. And I'm going to show you now how on this one combined layer we can get rid of that. And we can make it all just solid black, like where Arturo Herrera, the fine artist, cutting it out of a piece of black felt. So there's no variations at all. There's just the shapes. The way we do that is to double click on the selected part of the layer, not on the name, but just off to this side. And that will open up what are called layer styles. These are attributes of the pixels within that layer. Anything we do here will affect every pixel in that layer. We're going to start with a very simple one, which is color overlay. So check that. And then we're going to click on color overlay to see the settings. We want it to be normal mode. We want it to be opacity of 100. And then we can choose the color. But in this case, we're going to choose, and I find it helpful to start with web colors so that we're easily able to select solid black. Now, what that did as an effect on this layer, and you can see the effect now here, and you can drop it down here, is that there's color overlay. And that took all of those medium gray to dark gray pixels, and it just fills them with black. Yet it's still anti-aliased, which is still helpful. So it's not what's called bitmapped, which would only be black and white pixels. Here we have just a stronger solid black shape. And you see it just, especially where I have kind of thin things going on, it just bolsters that a little bit. Now I have completed the requirements of the assignment and it's time to save. So if I want a white background, I can turn on the white background. If I don't want the white background, I can turn it off. But it depends how I save it. So first of all, I want to hit Command S to save my Photoshop file. But you can't put a Photoshop file and have it visible online or in Canvas. You can make it an attachment, but if you do that, that's going to use up like all of your memory very quickly. So we're going to save it as an online file format after we've saved it as a PSD. And I want everyone to post their black shape version. And if you want to, as an option, we can add color. So now I go to File, and I go to Save. Nope, I don't want to go to Save More. I don't need to save it as a PSD. I go to Export. So Export As. And the top option is the most common for this kind of file icon. This is called PNG. It is an online file format that is like JPEG, except it supports transparency. So I'm going to save this as a PNG. I'm going to keep the same name. And I'm going to see where it saves. Will it save to downloads or will it save to my folder? My guess is it's going to save to downloads. Yes. So there it is. Now if I open up that PNG and I can move it to my folder, when you open it, see how there's no longer white behind it? Instead, in this program, this is just the Finder. There's a gray behind it. If I double click it and open it in preview, there'll be a dark gray behind it. This is because this is a floating image. It's just the black cutout. So whatever image I put, or whatever background I put this on, like if it's a red website, red will show through it. This is called supporting transparency. PNG allows for that. Let me move that into my folder. This is an online file format. I mark it orange. I could put that up to Canvas. Now the same thing. What if I file export it as not a PNG but a JPEG? And either is acceptable for this project. JPEG is the most common online image format. And that's because it has an extra step. Beyond just saving it, you can set the quality of it. And like I said before, your quality should always be 70 or higher. But it's like rounding a large number down. It's a way to really control how much memory it takes. And then if I say save, it's going to again save to downloads. Then I can again move it. Remember that F11 trick? Or you can also do Control up and you'll get this view, which is helpful. But I want to move that downloads JPEG into my exercise folder. I'm going to also mark this orange because both of these are online formats. Now let's open them both up. Here's the PNG. Here's the JPEG. So what's the difference? It was from the exact same PSD file, which had no background turned on, right? So the difference is JPEGs cannot support transparency. Whenever you have empty pixels in a JPEG, it's going to fill them in with white pixels. Make sense? Now, what if I save a PNG with the background turned on? File, export as, PNG, save. Go to downloads. There it is. Now it has the white background, right? So PNGs can support transparency, but they don't have to. So now this is the exact same basically as the JPEG. So when do you save as a PNG? Often when you do things like logos, you want their shape to be free floating. It's often actually used for folder icons. You know, these don't need to be rectangular. These can support transparency as long as they're a perfect square. So if I crop this into a square, let me do this quick. And these are many thousands of pixels, you know, because we're at print resolution. And then I hit Command K. So now it's cropped to a square, and then I select it all. Command A, select. Oh, it didn't even save it as a square because it was transparent. So I'd have to go into this file. I'll show you. I have time. All right. So I'll turn off the background. I'm going to change its canvas size from being 8 by 10 to being 10 by 10 in inches. And I'm going to grow the canvas from the middle. There it is. There's a little stuff at the corner I can get rid of. It's right at the edge of my crop. Okay? And now I'm going to save that. File, save or export as a PNG with the background turned off so it supports transparency. It's going to go to downloads. It's not going to overwrite the one in my folder. So you see there it is. It's a square. I open it in preview. Looks like that. Now I select it all, just like we did for your avatars. Right? There's the selection. I hit Command C to copy it. And now let's say, what's a folder I can do it for? Let's take my class folder. Let's take my exercise 1 folder icon. Right click, say get info, so I unlock the folder, click on the folder icon, and now paste it in. And now this is a transparent folder icon. You see that, how the blue's coming through? So that's where PNG is helpful. Cool. All right. Now, how do we post that to Canvas? I'm going to go in my history to before I did that canvas size because I want to keep it 8 by 10 for printing.